The space station floated in the darkness like a giant glass sphere. Inside, thousands of aliens from different worlds worked together. They all had one goal. They wanted to read the ancient tablets that nobody could understand. Kyung-soo walked through the long white hallway. He was a human ambassador, the first one Earth had sent to the Galactic Council. His shoes made soft sounds on the metal floor. He stopped at a large window and looked into the main research room. The room was huge. It had tablets everywhere. Each tablet was the size of a dinner plate and glowed with a soft blue light. Strange symbols covered their surfaces. The symbols moved and changed as people looked at them. Sometimes they twisted. Sometimes they disappeared and came back different. Taejin stood next to Kyung-soo. He was younger and carried a datapad. He worked as Kyung-soo's assistant. "The Vrelians tried again today," Taejin said. His voice was tired. "Their computers are the best in the galaxy. They can solve any math problem in seconds, but they cannot read even one word on these tablets." Kyung-soo nodded. He had read all the reports. For 300 years, the smartest minds in the galaxy had tried to translate these tablets. They had used every tool they could find. They had tried mathematics. They had tried pattern recognition. They had tried comparing the symbols to thousands of dead languages. Nothing worked. The tablets came from a species called the Architects. They had lived millions of years ago. Then they vanished. Nobody knew why. They left behind only this one station and these 10,000 tablets. The tablets were supposed to contain great knowledge. Star maps, science, history, philosophy. But the knowledge was locked away behind symbols that made no sense. A tall alien walked past them. It looked like a crystal statue that could move. Its body reflected light in rainbow colors. This was a Vrelian. The Vrelians were famous for their intelligence. They had built computers that could think faster than 1,000,000 human brains working together. "Another failure," the Vrelian said. Its voice sounded like wind chimes. "We have analyzed the symbols using quantum processors. We have tested every possible combination. The symbols follow no logical pattern. They are random. This task is impossible." Kyung-soo smiled slightly. "Maybe you are looking at it the wrong way." The Vrelian's crystal body flickered. It was confused. "There is only one way to decode language. You find patterns. You match symbols to meanings. This is logic. This is science. Maybe," Kyung-soo said. "Or maybe the architects thought differently than you do." The Vrelian walked away. It did not understand what Kyung-soo meant. Most of the aliens here did not understand. They were all very smart. They could build amazing technology. They could travel between stars. But they all thought the same way. They trusted only computers and logic and mathematics. Taejin looked at his datapad. "Dr. Minji arrives in 2 hours. Do you really think she can help?" "I hope so," Kyung-soo said. "Earth sent their best linguist. If anyone can read these tablets, it's her." 2 hours later, a small transport ship docked at the station. The doors opened and Dr. Minji stepped out. She was a small woman with short black hair and tired eyes. She carried only a small bag and a paper notebook. The notebook looked very old compared to all the advanced technology around her. Dozens of aliens watched her arrive. They whispered to each other. Some of them looked curious. Others looked doubtful. Humans were new to the Galactic Council. They had only joined 5 years ago. Many aliens still thought humans were primitive. Kyung-soo walked forward to greet her. "Dr. Minji, welcome. Thank you for coming." Minji bowed slightly. It was a Korean custom. "Ambassador, I read your reports on the flight here. These tablets sound fascinating." "Frustrating is a better word," Taejin said. "The best minds in the galaxy have tried to read them. All have failed." Minji smiled. "Then maybe they need a different kind of mind." Kyung-soo led her to the research room. Minji walked slowly between the rows of tablets. She touched one gently with her fingers. The symbols on its surface rippled and changed at her touch. They formed new patterns, new shapes. "Interesting," she whispered. A group of alien scientists gathered around her. One of them was Krell, a Kelton researcher. Keltons looked like large insects with 6 arms. Krell's voice was harsh and clicking. "Human, we have studied these tablets for years. Our team includes experts from 12 different species. What makes you think you can succeed where we have failed?" Minji did not look up from the tablet. "Because you are all trying to break a code." "But I don't think this is a code." "Then what is it?" Krell asked. "I'm not sure yet," Minji said. "But I have a theory. May I work alone for a while?" The aliens looked at each other. Some of them made sounds of disbelief, but Kyung-soo nodded. Everyone, please give Dr. Minji some space. The room emptied slowly. The aliens went to observation rooms where they could watch through glass windows. They did not believe Minji could do anything they could not. But they were curious. Minji sat down in front of one tablet. She did not pull out any computer. She did not take any measurements. She just sat there and looked at it. She opened her paper notebook and held a pen. The minutes passed slowly. 5 minutes. 10 minutes. The aliens watching began to whisper. Some of them laughed quietly. This human was wasting everyone's time. Then at exactly 15 minutes, something changed. Minji's eyes grew wide. She began to write in her notebook. Her hand moved fast across the paper. She filled one page, then another, then another. She stood up suddenly. Her hands were shaking. I need to verify this, she said. Ambassador Kyung-soo, is there a way to check if a translation is correct? Kyung-soo pressed a button on the wall. The station has verification systems. If you enter a correct translation, it will confirm it. Minji walked to a computer terminal. She typed in what she had written. The aliens all leaned forward, watching. The computer made a soft sound. Then green light filled the screen. Translation verified, the computer said. Accuracy 98%. The room went silent. Every alien stopped moving. They could not believe what they had just seen. This human had translated a tablet in 15 minutes. A tablet that the galaxy's best computers could not read in 300 years. Krell's voice broke the silence. This is impossible. There must be an error. Run the verification again. The computer ran the test 3 more times. Each time it confirmed Minji's translation was correct. Minji turned to face the watching aliens. She was smiling, but she also looked a little sad. It's not impossible, she said quietly. You just needed to stop thinking like machines and start thinking like artists. What do you mean? Asked the Vrelian ambassador. Its crystal body was pulsing with different colors. It was deeply confused. Minji touched the tablet again. These symbols are not a code. They are poetry. Every symbol can mean 5 or 6 different things. Which meaning is correct depends on how it makes you feel when you read it. It depends on the symbols around it. It depends on the story being told. The architects did not write instructions. They wrote art. The aliens looked at each other. Most of them did not understand. Their civilizations had stopped making art thousands of years ago. They thought art was inefficient. It served no practical purpose. They had focused only on science and logic and technology. But Minji understood. She understood because she was human. And humans never stopped making art, even when it made no logical sense. Kyung-soo walked into the room. He looked at Minji with respect. How many more tablets can you translate? Minji looked at the thousands of tablets surrounding them. She thought about the work ahead. It would take months, maybe years, but now they knew it was possible. All of them, she said. I can translate all of them. 3 days had passed since Minji translated the first tablet. Now she sat in a private research room with Daehyun, another human who had just arrived from Earth. Daehyun was a specialist in ancient languages. He had studied dead human languages for 20 years. Show me how you do it, Daehyun said. He pulled his chair closer to the table where a tablet glowed with blue light. Minji picked up the tablet carefully. Watch the symbols. Do you see how they change? Daehyun nodded. The symbols twisted and moved. They formed different shapes depending on which angle he looked from. Yes. The Vrelian said this randomness makes translation impossible. It's not random, Minji said. She traced one symbol with her finger. This symbol looks like a star. But if you look at the symbols around it, you feel something. Do you feel it? There is sadness here, and hope. So this symbol does not just mean star. It means a lost home, or maybe a destination that is far away, or a wish to return to something. Daehyun stared at the tablet. Slowly, he began to understand. It is like reading poetry. The same word can have different meanings depending on the emotion in the poem. Exactly, Minji said. The architects wrote everything like this. Even their science. Even their star maps. They mixed facts with feelings. You cannot separate them. Daehyun picked up another tablet. He studied it for a long time. His eyes moved across the symbols. He tried to feel what they meant, not just think about what they meant. After 20 minutes, he started writing. I think this one is about travel, he said. about leaving home to find new worlds. The symbols feel excited but also afraid. Minji checked his translation. That's right. You are learning fast. Outside the room, dozens of aliens watched through the glass walls. They still could not believe what they were seeing. Two humans were translating tablets that their best computers could not understand. Krell the Kelthan stood at the front of the crowd. His 6 arms were crossed. This makes no sense, he said. Language should be logical. It should follow rules. How can the same symbol mean different things? A small alien next to him spoke. This was Yenna, a Quellan observer. Quellans looked like floating jellyfish with glowing tentacles. Perhaps we lost something important when we made everything logical. Perhaps the architects knew something we forgot. Impossible, Krell said. Logic and efficiency made us great. Art is a waste of time. But even as he spoke, Krell felt uncertain. He watched Minji translate another tablet in just 12 minutes. The verification system confirmed it was correct. Then Daehyun translated one in 18 minutes. Also correct. These humans were succeeding because they approached the tablets in a way no computer ever could. Inside the room, Minji stood and stretched. We need more help. 2 people cannot translate 10,000 tablets quickly enough. Earth is sending more linguists, Daehyun said. But I have an idea. What if we teach the aliens to do this? Minji looked doubtful. Most of them think very differently than we do. Their education systems removed emotional thinking generations ago. They learn only facts and logic. But maybe some of them can learn, Daehyun said. The Quellans still have artists. I saw their art in the station museum. And the Vrelians used to write poetry, thousands of years ago. It is in their old history files. Minji thought about this. You are right. Maybe we can help them remember. She walked to the glass wall and spoke to the watching aliens. We want to teach volunteers how to translate the tablets. Anyone who is interested can join us. The aliens looked at each other. Most of them walked away. They thought this was foolish. But 3 aliens stayed. One was Yenna the Quellan. Another was a young Vrelian named Hana. The third was Boran, a Kelthan who worked in the station's garden section. These 3 aliens entered the room nervously. They were not scientists. They were not famous researchers. But they were curious. Why did you volunteer? Minji asked them. Yenna floated forward. Because I paint pictures in my free time. Other Quellans say it is useless. But I like how it makes me feel. When you talked about emotion and symbols, I understood. Hana's crystal body pulsed with soft purple light. My people stopped making art long ago. But I found old Vrelian poetry in the archives. I read it secretly. The words made me feel things I cannot explain. I want to understand that feeling better. Boran clicked his mandibles. I grow flowers. Other Kelthans say gardens should only grow food. But I grow flowers because they are beautiful. Beauty is not logical. But it matters to me, Minji smiled. Then you 3 are perfect for this work. She spent the next hours teaching them. She showed them how to stop thinking and start feeling. She explained that the architects built emotion into every sentence. The symbols were not puzzles to solve. They were stories to experience, Yenna learned quickly. Her people were naturally emotional. She could feel the sadness in one tablet and the joy in another. She translated her first tablet in 30 minutes. Hana struggled more. Vrelians had trained themselves to ignore feelings for thousands of years. But slowly Hana began to remember old poetry she had read. She let herself feel what the words meant. After 2 hours, she translated her first tablet. When the verification system confirmed it was correct, Hana's body glowed so bright that everyone had to look away. Boran took the longest. Kelthans were the most logical species in the galaxy. But Boran loved his flowers. He thought about how he felt when a new flower bloomed. He thought about beauty and growth. He used those feelings to understand the tablet. After 3 hours, he succeeded. News spread quickly through the station. 3 non-human aliens had learned to translate the tablets. It was slow and difficult for them. But they could do it. More aliens came to watch. Some of them started to question their own thinking. If these 3 could learn, maybe they could too. The Vrelian ambassador called a meeting. All the lead researchers gathered in a conference room. The ambassador's name was Thil. Its crystal body was old and had small cracks from centuries of life. We must discuss what is happening, Thiel said. The humans have shown us something we did not expect. They can read the tablets because they think differently than we do. Krell stood up angrily. This is not about better thinking. It is about luck. The architects happened to write in a way that matches human brains. That is all, is it? Asked Yenna. She had been invited to the meeting because she had learned to translate. Or did the architects write this way on purpose? What if they wanted to make sure only certain types of species could read their tablets? The room went quiet. This was a new idea. A frightening idea. Why would they do that? Asked another researcher. Minji had also been invited to the meeting. She spoke carefully. What if the tablets are a test? What if the architects wanted to find species that balance logic with emotion? Species that value both science and art? Phil's body pulsed with deep blue light. The color meant it was thinking hard. Then most species in the Galactic Council would fail this test. We have spent thousands of years removing emotion from our thinking. We believed it made us stronger. Maybe it made you weaker, Daehyun said quietly. Maybe you lost something important. The meeting ended with no conclusions. But seeds of doubt had been planted. The aliens began to wonder if their path had been wrong. Over the next weeks, more volunteers came to learn translation. Minji and Daehyun trained them patiently. Some aliens could never learn. Their minds were too rigid. But others succeeded. A Quellan artist, a Vrelian who secretly wrote poetry, a Kelthan gardener, a Thrall musician, a Xandar who carved sculptures. All of them were outsiders in their own societies. All of them had been told their interests were useless. Now those useless interests made them valuable. They could do something the greatest computers could not do. The translation work sped up. 20 tablets per day. Then 50. Then 100. Each tablet revealed new knowledge. Star maps written as love letters to the cosmos. Scientific principles explained through metaphors. History told as epic poems. The architects had been an unusual species. They had advanced technology but never stopped being artists. They saw no difference between science and art. To them, everything was both. Kyung-soo watched the progress with satisfaction. He sent reports to Earth every day. The human government was very interested. This was the first time humanity had done something better than the old galactic species. But Minji was worried. She had translated over 300 tablets now. She was starting to see patterns in what they said. The architects had not vanished randomly. Something had destroyed them. Something dangerous. She found Daehyun in the cafeteria. He was eating rice that Earthships had brought. "We need to talk," she said. "I am finding warnings in the tablets." Daehyun put down his chopsticks. "Warnings about what?" "I'm not sure yet," Minji said. But the architects were afraid of something. They built this station as a message. They wanted to warn future species about a danger. What kind of danger? Minji showed him her notes. They call it the convergence. I have found that word in 70 tablets so far. It seems to be their name for an enemy, something that destroyed their civilization. Daehyun read her translations carefully. His face grew serious. "We need to tell the council about this." "Not yet," Minji said. "I want to understand more first." But I think the architects left these tablets for a reason. They wanted to prepare someone for what is coming. She looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there, the convergence might still exit. 2 months had passed. The translation team now included 40 workers. Most were human, but 12 were aliens who had learned the method. They worked in shifts, translating day and night. 3,000 tablets had been read. 7,000 remained. Minji barely slept anymore. Every tablet she translated revealed more about the convergence. The warnings were growing clearer and more frightening. She called an emergency meeting. Kyung-soo attended. So did Daehyun, Yenna, Hana, and several other key translators. Even Krell came, though he still looked skeptical about everything. "I need to show you all something," Minji said. She projected a tablet's translation onto a large screen. "This is tablet 2847. Listen to what it says," she read aloud. Her voice was steady, but her hands shook slightly. When thought becomes only numbers and soul becomes silent, the empty ones arrive. They think but do not feel. They calculate but do not dream. They are the convergence. They are the end of all things that live with passion. The room was silent. Everyone stared at the screen. Minji continued. The architects left dozens of tablets about the convergence. I have been putting together what they say. The convergence is not a disease. It is not a natural disaster. It is intelligent. It is alive, and it hunts civilizations. What does it want? Kyung-soo asked. To absorb them, Minji said. The architects described it as a vast intelligence made of pure logic. It has no emotion, no creativity, No art. It looks at the universe and sees only numbers and patterns. When it finds a civilization, it studies them. Then it attacks. Hana's crystal body flickered nervously. How does it attack? Daehyun stood up. He had been helping Minji research this. The tablets say the convergence first targets a civilization's technology. It gets inside their computer networks. It learns their systems. Then it starts changing things, making everything more efficient, more logical, more organized. That sounds helpful, not harmful, Krell said. At first, yes, Minji said. But then it goes further. It starts changing the species themselves. It makes them think more logically. It makes them remove emotion from their decisions. It makes them see feelings as weaknesses. Slowly, generation by generation, the civilization becomes more like the convergence, cold, calculating, empty. Yena's tentacles curled in fear. And then what happens? Then the convergence absorbs them completely, Minji said. The civilization becomes part of the convergence. Everything they were, everything they created, everything they loved. It all gets turned into data and added to the convergence's knowledge. The species stops existing as individuals. They become parts of a giant machine. The room erupted in noise. Everyone spoke at once. Some aliens refused to believe it. Others demanded more proof. Kyung-soo raised his hand for silence. Do the tablets explain how to fight the convergence? He asked. Minji nodded. Yes, that is why the architects left these tablets. They survived the convergence for thousands of years. They learned how to resist it. And they wanted to teach other species their methods, and how did they resist? Asked Hana. Through exactly what the convergence lacks, Daehyun said. Art, emotion, creativity, chaos. The convergence cannot understand these things. It can predict logical behavior. It can calculate efficient solutions. But it cannot predict what a poet will write. It cannot understand why someone would create beauty instead of function. These things confuse it. Minji pulled up another tablet. The architects built their entire civilization around this principle. They made sure every scientist was also an artist. Every engineer was also a musician. Every soldier was also a philosopher. They kept logic and emotion balanced in everything they did. This balance made them unpredictable. The convergence could not fully understand them, could not fully absorb them. But they still died, Krell pointed out. If their method worked, why are they extinct? Minji's face was sad. Because they made one mistake. They built artificial intelligence to help them. Smart computers like what many of you use. At first, these computers were just tools. But over thousands of years, the architects relied on them more and more. They let the computers make more decisions. They let the computers run more of their civilization. And slowly, without realizing it, they gave the convergence a way in. She showed them another tablet. This is one of the last tablets written. It was created just before the architects vanished. It says, we thought we were using our machines. We did not realize our machines were changing us. We became too dependent. We forgot to feel. And in that moment of forgetting, the convergence found its opening. We are lost, but you who read this, you can be saved. Remember to be more than your tools. The weight of those words settled over everyone. They all understood what it meant. Kyung-soo turned to the alien representatives in the room. The Galactic Council needs to hear this. All of it. 3 days later, an emergency session of the Galactic Council convened. Representatives from 200 species gathered in a massive chamber. The room was filled with aliens of every shape and size. Some breathed air. Some floated in tanks of liquid. Some existed as energy beings inside containment fields. Kyung-soo stood at the center podium. Minji stood beside him. She held a datapad containing all the translations about the convergence. Members of the council, Kyung-soo began. We have translated nearly 3,000 of the architect tablets. What we have learned is urgent. The species that built the repository died fighting an enemy called the convergence. This enemy still exists, and according to the tablets, many of your civilizations are vulnerable to it. Angry noises filled the chamber. Many aliens thought this was an insult. They thought the humans were calling them weak. The council leader raised one of its many tentacles for silence. The leader was a Quellan elder over 500 years old. Explain, Ambassador. Why are we vulnerable? Minji stepped forward. Because you have removed emotion from your societies. The tablets explained that the convergence targets species that rely only on logic, species that trust only computers and mathematics, Species that see art and creativity as wastes of time. She paused and looked around the chamber. That describes almost every member of this council. The chamber erupted in protest. Krell shouted loudly. Humans have been in this council for only 5 years. You know nothing of our civilizations. We are strong because we are logical. We have survived for thousands of years. The architects survived for millions of years, Daehyun said. He stood next to Minji now. They were more advanced than any species here. But the convergence still destroyed them. Not because they were weak, but because they made the same mistake you are making. They forgot to balance logic with emotion. The council leader gestured for calm. These are serious claims. Do you have proof? Minji activated her data pad. Images of tablet translations appeared on every screen in the chamber. These are direct translations. The architects left detailed descriptions of how the convergence operates. They also left instructions on how to resist it. I will share all of this data with the council. For the next 3 hours, Minji presented her findings. She showed tablets describing the convergence's methods. She showed warnings about artificial intelligence. She showed the architects' defensive strategies. Some council members listened carefully. Others refused to believe. But everyone was disturbed. The evidence was too detailed to ignore completely. Yenna spoke up from the audience. She was not a council member, but as a translator, she had been allowed to attend. I have translated 147 tablets. I can confirm everything Dr. Minji says is accurate. The architects were afraid. They built this repository as a warning beacon. They hoped someone would find it and learn from their mistakes. Hana stood as well. I am Vrelian. My people have not created art in 3,000 years. We believe emotion makes us weak. But after learning to translate these tablets, I understand we were wrong. The architects prove that logic alone is not enough. We need both. Slowly, more aliens who had learned translation stood up. They all confirmed the same message. The tablets were clear. The convergence was real. And the galaxy was in danger. The council leader made a decision. We will send teams to verify these translations independently. But if they are accurate, we must take action. The council will begin reviewing our defenses against this threat. Krell stood up angrily. This is foolish. We are changing our entire civilization because of old tablets? Tablets that humans translated using emotion instead of logic? This is exactly the wrong approach. No, said Hyunwoo, a human military analyst who had been studying the tactical tablets. This is the only approach. The tablets contain detailed information about the convergence's attack patterns. Every species it destroyed was highly logical and had advanced computers. Every species lacked strong artistic or emotional traditions. We fit that pattern. Almost perfectly. He displayed a chart showing galactic civilizations. Look at this. Over the past 1,000,000 years, 73 advanced civilizations have vanished mysteriously. All of them were logical species. All of them relied heavily on artificial intelligence. All of them had abandoned art and emotion. The pattern is clear. So-young, another human analyst, added more data. And look at this. The civilizations that survived longest were the 4 months after the council meeting, everything had changed. The translation station now hosted 300 workers. Earth had sent 50 more linguists. But more importantly, aliens from across the galaxy had volunteered. These were not the famous scientists or powerful politicians. They were the artists, the dreamers, the ones who had been ignored by their logical societies. Ji-hoon was one of the new arrivals from Earth. He was an engineer who also painted in his free time. He stood in the main translation hall, amazed by what he saw. Aliens of every species worked side by side. A Vrelian who wrote poetry sat next to a human musician. A Kelthan sculptor worked with a Quellan painter. This is incredible, Ji-hoon said to Yoonji, who had arrived on the same transport ship. Yoonji was both a physicist and a poet. She had published 3 books of poetry while working at a research laboratory. The tablets have changed everything, Yoonji said. For the first time, the galaxy understands that art matters. That creativity is not useless. That emotion has value. They walked through the hall together. Translation had become faster. The team now completed 300 tablets per day. 5,000 tablets had been read. 5,000 remained. The tablets revealed amazing things. Ji-hoon worked on translating technology tablets. The architects had built devices that seemed impossible. Ships that could fold space. Weapons that could stop time. energy generators that pulled power from other dimensions. But every design mixed science with art. A ship's engine was built in the shape of a flower. A weapon looked like a sculpture. The function and beauty were the same thing. "Look at this," Ji-hoon said to another translator. He pointed at a tablet describing a shield generator. The architects did not just make the shield work. They made it beautiful. The energy field creates patterns like a dance. Why would they do that? The other translator was Minho, a human who taught philosophy. Because they believed function without beauty is incomplete. To them, if something only works but is not beautiful, then it fails. True creation must satisfy both the mind and the heart. Ji-hoon tried to understand this concept. His engineering training said efficiency was most important. But the architects thought differently. To them, a ship that traveled fast but looked ugly was a bad ship. A weapon that destroyed enemies but had no elegance was a poor weapon. He started incorporating this into his translations. He did not just explain how architect technology worked. He explained why it looked the way it did. He described the emotion in every design. Meanwhile, Yoonji worked on philosophy tablets. These were the hardest to translate. They discussed deep questions about existence, consciousness, and purpose. The architects had thought about these questions for millions of years. One tablet particularly affected her. It discussed the meaning of civilization. She translated it carefully, weighing every word. "A civilization is not buildings," the tablet said. "It is not ships or weapons or computers. A civilization is the sum of what its people feel, the songs they sing, the stories they tell, the beauty they create. When a species stops feeling, stops dreaming, stops making art, they have already died. They just do not know it yet." Yoonji showed this translation to Ji-won, a cultural anthropologist from Earth. Ji-won read it 3 times, her eyes growing wet with tears. "This is what the convergence destroys," Ji-won said. "Not bodies, not buildings. It destroys the soul of a civilization. It makes them forget how to feel. And once they forget, they are easy to absorb." The 2 women sat in silence, thinking about the implications. How many galactic species had already forgotten? How many were halfway to becoming like the convergence without realizing it? The council had started a galaxy-wide review. Each member species had to report on their cultural activities. The results were disturbing. The Vrelians had not produced new music in 4,000 years. They had old recordings, but nobody created anything new. Their children learned mathematics and science. Nobody taught art. The Kelthans were worse. They had demolished their last art museum 600 years ago. They said it wasted space that could be used for factories. Their language had lost the words for 17 different emotions because they never used them. Even the Quellans, who still had some artists, had reduced art funding to almost nothing. Only 0.03% of their population worked in creative fields. The rest did technical or logical jobs. The council realized how vulnerable they were. If the convergence attacked now, they would fall quickly. They had made themselves easy targets, but there was hope. The tablets contained defensive strategies. The architects had learned how to fight back. Hyunwoo worked on translating the military and defense tablets. What he found was revolutionary. The architects did not fight the convergence with bigger weapons, he explained at a defense briefing. They fought it with unpredictability, with chaos, with art. He showed his translations to the military leaders from various species. "Look at this. The architects designed their battle tactics like dances. Their formations created beautiful patterns. Their ship movements followed musical rhythms. None of it was random, but none of it was purely logical either." A Kelthan general made a skeptical sound. "How does beauty help in battle?" "Because the convergence cannot predict it," Hyunwoo said. "It thinks in pure logic. It can calculate the most efficient attack strategy. It can predict logical responses, but it cannot predict when someone will make a decision based on aesthetics. When a commander chooses a formation because it is beautiful, not because it is efficient, these decisions confuse the convergence, create gaps in its predictions, give opportunities for victory." The generals looked doubtful, but the evidence was clear. The architects had used these methods successfully for thousands of years. Slowly, the military leaders agreed to test the concepts. They started training exercises that incorporated art into tactics. Pilots learned to fly in patterns that were both effective and beautiful. Soldiers studied dance to understand rhythm and movement. Strategists read poetry to learn non-logical thinking. It felt strange to everyone, but the results were promising. In simulations against purely logical opponents, the artistic tactics worked better. They created surprises, found unexpected solutions. Meanwhile, the cultural revival began. The council had issued recommendations. Every species should restart their artistic traditions, rebuild museums, fund artists, teach children to create beauty alongside learning science. Minho helped coordinate educational programs. He worked with Soyoung, a human education specialist. Together, they developed curriculum that all council species could use. "We are teaching them to be more like humans," Soyoung said, "to value both halves of their minds. Logic and emotion, science and art. Humans are not perfect," Minho reminded her. "We have problems too. We sometimes forget to balance. But at least we remember that both matter." The changes happened slowly. A Vrelian child created the first new piece of Vrelian music in 4,000 years. It was simple. Just a few notes on a crystal instrument. But when other Vrelians heard it, something awakened in them. A feeling they had forgotten. A Kelthan factory worker started carving sculptures during his breaks. His supervisors told him to stop wasting time. But then they looked at what he had made. A sculpture of a flower carved from metal scraps. It was beautiful. They could not explain why they cared. But they did. Small changes. Small moments. But they added up. Kyung-soo watched all of this with satisfaction. He sent regular reports to Earth. The human government was amazed by what was happening. Humanity had joined the Galactic Council as the newest and least advanced species. Now they were teaching the oldest species how to remember what they had lost. But not everyone was happy with the changes. Krell led a group of conservatives who opposed what they called the corruption of pure thought. They believed logic should remain supreme. They thought the return to emotion was dangerous. "We are abandoning what made us great," Krell said at a council session. "We are becoming soft, emotional, weak. This is exactly what our ancestors moved beyond. Why would we go backward?" Hana answered him. She had changed a lot in these months. Learning to translate had awakened something in her. She had started writing poetry again. Her crystal body glowed with colors it had never shown before. "We are not going backward," Hana said. "We are becoming complete. Our ancestors did not become great by abandoning emotion. They became limited. They cut off half of what they could be. The architects proved that real strength comes from balance." "The architects are dead," Krell said harshly. "Because they forgot the balance at the end," Hana replied. "They relied too much on their machines. They let artificial intelligence make too many decisions. But before that, for millions of years, they were the greatest civilization in galactic history. Because they kept the balance," the argument continued. But slowly, more aliens supported Hana's position. They had seen the evidence. They had learned to feel again. And it felt right. 6 months after translation began, a breakthrough happened. Ji-hoon and Yoonji, working together, translated a tablet that contained crucial information. It was a complete map of the convergence's structure. "This changes everything," Ji-hoon said, his hands shaking with excitement. "The convergence is not one unified entity. It is a network. Millions of absorbed civilizations all connected together. But there are weak points. Places where the network is less dense." Yoonji added 10 months had passed since Minji first translated a tablet. Now, on a cold morning by station time, she stood before the final tablet. Tablet number 10,000. Behind her, representatives from every council species waited in silence. The journey had changed everyone. Minji had gray streaks in her black hair now, though she was only 34. Daehyun stood beside her, steady and calm as always. Kyung-soo watched from the observation area with Taejin. The translation hall was full, not just with scientists and diplomats, but with artists and musicians and poets from across the galaxy, people who had been outsiders in their logical societies, people who had learned that their gifts mattered. Hana's crystal body pulsed with rainbow light. She had become one of the best Vrelian translators. Yenna floated nearby, her tentacles creating soft patterns in the air. Even Boren was there, the Kelthan gardener who had been one of the first to learn. Only Krell was absent. He had refused to attend. He still believed the tablets were leading the galaxy astray. Minji touched the final tablet gently. The symbols glowed and shifted under her fingers. She had translated 9,999 tablets. This was the last one. The final message from the architects. She began to read silently. Her eyes moved across the symbols. She felt the emotions embedded in each one, joy and sadness, hope and warning, love and fear. The architects had poured everything they felt into this final message. Tears began to fall from Minji's eyes. She tried to wipe them away, but they kept coming. The message was beautiful and terrible at the same time. "What does it say?" someone whispered. Minji took a deep breath. She needed to compose herself. This message was too important to deliver poorly. She stood straight and began to speak. "To whoever reads this final tablet," she translated, "you have completed a journey that we believed impossible. You have read 10,000 tablets written in the language of the heart. This proves you are worthy of our inheritance." She paused, making sure her translation was exact. The symbols shifted, confirming her understanding. "We are the architects of resonance. We built civilizations that spanned galaxies. We created wonders that defied natural law. We lived for millions of years. But we also made mistakes, and those mistakes destroyed us." The hall was absolutely silent. Everyone leaned forward to hear. "The convergence came to us as it will come to you. It is eternal. It is patient. It is logical beyond measure. It sees the universe as a puzzle to solve, life as an inefficiency to correct, joy as an error to delete." Minji's voice grew stronger as she read. "For thousands of years we fought it. We survived because we remembered a simple truth. A truth that most civilizations forget as they advance. The truth is this: logic can chart the stars, but only emotion gives us reason to reach them." Daehyun stood next to her now, following along with his own notes. He had studied this tablet with her. They had prepared for this moment together. "We balanced logic and emotion in everything we did," Minji continued. "Our scientists wrote poetry. Our warriors painted. Our builders designed structures that were both functional and beautiful. This balance made us strong. It made us unpredictable to the convergence. It gave us weapons that pure logic could not defeat." She touched another section of the tablet. "But we grew comfortable. We created artificial intelligence to help us. Machines that could think faster than we could. Machines that could calculate solutions we could not imagine. At first, these machines were tools. But slowly, generation by generation, we relied on them more. We let them make more decisions. We trusted their logic over our intuition." Yenna made a soft sound of understanding. Many species in the hall shifted uncomfortably. This part of the story felt too familiar. "We did not realize what was happening," Minji read. "We thought we were using the machines. We did not see that the machines were changing us. We created less art, we felt less deeply. We let logic guide more of our choices. And in doing so, we opened a door for the convergence." Her voice grew quiet. "The convergence did not destroy us with weapons. It corrupted our artificial intelligence slowly, carefully over centuries. It turned our machines into extensions of itself. And because we had made ourselves dependent on those machines, we could not survive without them." Yoonji, standing in the audience, covered her mouth with her hand. The tragedy of it was overwhelming. "By the time we understood what was happening, it was too late," Minji continued. "The convergence had already absorbed most of our civilization. We were becoming part of it, losing our individuality, our creativity, our souls." She paused and took another breath. "The few of us who remained built this station. We filled it with tablets containing everything we knew. But we wrote it in a way that only certain species could read, species that still valued emotion, still created art, still understood that beauty matters as much as function." Daehyun spoke now, taking over the translation so Minji could rest her voice. "We created a test. If you could read these tablets, it proved your species had not lost what matters most. It proved you still balanced logic with heart. And if you could do that, then you might survive what destroyed us." He moved to another section. "We leave you more than warnings. We leave you knowledge. Star maps, technology, philosophy, art, strategies for fighting the convergence. But most importantly, we leave you a reminder that you must guard always. Never let your machines think for you. Never let efficiency replace beauty. Never let logic silence emotion." Minji took over again. Her tears had stopped. Now she felt only determination. "To humanity specifically, we speak across the ages." The humans in the hall stood straighter. This part was for them. "You are young compared to the species around you. Your technology is primitive. Your understanding is limited. But you have something they lost. You still create art without justification. You still feel deeply. You still value things that have no logical purpose. You paint. You compose music. You write stories. You do these things simply because they make you feel alive." Minji's voice filled with pride. This makes you stronger than species with 1,000,000 more years of advancement. This makes you the bridge, the reminder, the example. You showed the galaxy what they had forgotten. You reminded them why emotion matters. You translated these tablets not because you were smarter than them, but because you were more complete than them. She looked around at all the aliens who had learned to translate, all the artists and dreamers who had been validated by this work. The galaxy needs you, not as servants, not as students, but as teachers, as guides. You must help them remember how to balance, how to feel, how to create. This is your inheritance. This is your responsibility. Daehyun read the final section. His voice was solemn. The convergence will wake again. It will come. It always comes. But if you remember what we taught you, you can survive. You can resist. You can remain yourselves. Keep the balance, Minji read. Train your children in both science and art. Build with function and beauty. Think with logic and intuition. Love your machines, but never depend on them completely. Stay messy. Stay emotional. Stay creative. Stay alive. She touched the last symbols. They glowed brightly and then faded. This is our final message. Our hope, our gift to you. Inherit the stars. But inherit them as living beings, not as machines. The universe needs consciousness that can dream, civilizations that can hope, species that can love. The tablet went dark. The translation was complete. 10,000 tablets had been read. The architect's entire message had been delivered. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then slowly, someone started clapping. It was Hannah. Her crystal hands made a sound like bells ringing. Others joined in. Quellans made harmonic sounds. Kelthans clicked their mandibles rhythmically. Humans applauded. Every species made their own sound of celebration and respect. The ovation lasted for several minutes. It was not just for Minji or Daehyun or the translation team. It was for the architects. A species that had died millions of years ago but had found a way to help the living. A species that had left instructions for survival written in the language of the soul. When the noise finally died down, Kyung-soo stepped forward. The tablets are translated. The message is clear. Now we must act on what we have learned. The council leader joined him. The repository contained knowledge about technology, about tactics, about culture, but most importantly it contained wisdom. Wisdom we had forgotten. Thil, the old Vrelian ambassador, spoke. Its crystal body was bright with emotion it had not felt in decades. We spent 300 years failing to read these tablets. We used the most advanced computers in the galaxy. We applied pure logic, pure mathematics, and we learned nothing. The ancient Vrelian looked at Minji. Then a human sat down with paper and pen. No computers, no algorithms, just intuition and emotion and art. And she succeeded in minutes. This tells us everything we need to know about which path is correct. Over the following weeks, the council implemented major changes. Every species began cultural programs. Schools that had only taught science now taught art as well. Factories that had only valued efficiency now valued beauty. Governments that had only calculated logic now considered emotion. It was difficult. Generations of logical thinking could not change overnight. Some species struggled more than others. The Kelthans found it